worries, your concerns, what's going on in your world at the moment. And it's an all recruiting gym affair this time. We've got Alan Clarke, Claire Davis, and Christina Robinson. I'm Angela Cripps, not recruiting gym, as my name says. But we are all in the recruiting gym. Everyone will get to share a little bit about themselves and introduce themselves in a second. We have 6 pre-asked questions. Now, feel free in the chat, or if you're in comments on LinkedIn or Facebook, to add one of your own if you would like to. But if not, if you look at these questions that are there, and then vote on them. So if you're in Crowdcast, come in, vote on the questions, just in case you can't stay for the 45 minutes. And at that point, then we'll change the question order. Otherwise, we just go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're happy to do that. So while you're all thinking about that and voting on your questions, let's go. I'm coming to you first, Christina, because we're not sure the Wi-Fi is going to last the 45 minutes.
I am. Normally I'm so prepared for this stuff. I'm all organised, got my bit of branding going on. Today I'm in a hotel just by Heathrow. I've struggled to get on the Wi-Fi, so I'm toggled to my phone. Reception's really busy, so I'm out in a beautiful courtyard. But there's it might get a bit noisy, so I'm just crossing my fingers that I'll be okay.
Have you found the mute button yet?
I have, but I'm not very good at muting myself. I like the mic.
No, that's true. So Christina runs Green Umbrella. She's our marketing and digital branding coach in the gym. Let's come to you, Alan.
Me? What? The founder of Recruiter Fit. Why do I need to do an introduction? If you don't know me, where the hell have you been? You're not on LinkedIn. Yes, I've known Angela for God knows how many years. I've known Claire and Christina for slightly less years. But yeah, I train recruiters. There you go. That's it.
Da, da, da. I think it's 26 years. Did I work out the other day? Oh,
you're a very, very lucky woman, Angela Cripps.
Very much. Claire, over to you and your crash test dummy.
I'm just laughing at the way Alan said, if you don't know me, where have you been? It could be sort of almost like this big head walking in the room. If you don't know me, where have you been? I'm not.
There was some serious swag behind that, wasn't there? Some serious swag.
I'm not going to say that. If you don't know me, where have you been? I'm Claire Davis. I'm the mental health and wellness coach for the recruiting gym. I've been in recruitment for longer than Alan and Angela have known each other. So a long time. Absolutely love recruitment, and I've brought the mental health side of things into recruitment because it is so important, and I burnt out myself when I was in recruitment.
Well, with all this experience in the recruitment industry, then I am going to crack on because I know that we're going to talk a lot. So we're going to go to our first question. First of all, I'm going to put Alan on focus here. And we're going to get your answer initially. So what would be your top tip to help me progress my career in the recruitment industry to the next level? And to give you some context, they were a recruitment consultant. So it's that senior or principal or executive. It's literally just being better at what they do and getting that promotion.
Oh, well, now you tell me. I just had the original question. Now you've added in a few other bits. That's completely thrown my answer. I was going to say I haven't got a top tip. There isn't one. I think it depends what you want your career to look like. If you're just looking at the next level, then know what you need in order to achieve in your current role, in order to be recognised to get to that next level. And I think sometimes that involves investing in you, investing in your physical and mental health, which we know that Claire can talk about for days. But I think first of all, you've got to decide, what do you want your career to look like? And also, can you achieve that next level of career in your current company? Because if you're working in a small outfit, there might not be the layers there. Do you want to hive off and be a principal consultant? Do you want to become a team leader, a managing consultant? Do you want to be a manager? Because I know people in recruitment, some of them say, I don't want to manage. Why do I want to take on everybody else's? Why do I want to do the toughest job in recruitment, which is being a billing manager? Yeah. So I suppose my top tips would be, first of all, decide where you want to go. Then what you need to do is map out the levels and the layers that you need to go through. Know what you need to achieve, get your head down, work really hard and master your craft. And also know that when it comes to achieving in your career, stay positive, because it's not always going to work to the timeline that you have in your head. And achieving something is not always a straight line. There's always going to be things that are going to throw you off course. But if you have that determination of, this is the layer, this is the level I want to get to, know what it is you want to achieve, and then put the plan in place in order to get there.
All great tips there, and that plan, really important. Visualizing, where is it you want to be, what does it look like? I had 7 jobs in 8 locations as a recruiter, and the thing that I realized after the first couple was, tell them you want to actually be promoted. So once you've got that plan, you've got to share it. If they don't know, you'll be surprised. There'll be so many managers go, oh, I didn't realize you wanted to be a billing manager. Where did that come from? So don't assume that they know that you want to be promoted, because it's not necessarily in their heads. It should be. I'm not saying that. It should be, shouldn't it? But things. What about yourself, Alan? When you got promoted, what would you say was the catalyst that got you promoted?
For me, in every job I've ever done, I just get my head down and do it to the best of my capability. I've always said that whatever job I do, if I was a road sweeper, I guarantee you this, you'd be able to eat your breakfast off the roads. If I was working in customer service, you wouldn't want to leave because, we would be having a chat. I would be so polite. I've seen some terrible customer services experiences, but for me, it's about immersing myself in that job. And, if I'm not getting recognised, I'll go and talk to the people and say, did you see what I've just done? and sometimes you've got to be prepared to show off a bit. We talk about in situational leadership about, you get to delegation, you don't need to praise those people anymore, but they're the ones that are going to come knocking on your door and say, oh, by the way, just done a 50 grand placement. And basically they're holding their shoulder like that and saying, go on, give me one of those, give me one of those. But for me, no, I've always immersed myself in it. I've taken it seriously, if you can believe that. But just work really hard and master it. And look, enjoy it. Because it's when you stop enjoying something, that's when you're on the slippery slope out.
Yeah. So self-promotion, when you've done good things, it's got to be in there. So if that's not you, some of the other questions might help you with that today. Thank you so much, Alan. I'm going to click the done answering on that. We're going to question 2. I'll bring Claire on for this one. So this is all about trauma in life. Can be so debilitating. The reason this is in here, it came up twice yesterday at the event that I was in. So we picked these questions from what people are asking around us over the last 2 weeks. What can help get through something like this trauma to get to a positive on the other side?
Okay, I just want to introduce my man behind first, so that you don't all think I'm a bit strange. My children moved this into the room and I can't move it. It's a punching bag. So
it's really heavy, isn't it?
You may actually need a punching bag, a punching man. So trauma, I actually read this and I thought, oh my goodness, this is a very deep question. And I think it's one that's very hard to answer in just a few minutes. You've probably all heard the term PTSD, and the first thing that often comes to people's mind with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is the forces. And traumas are not just about the forces. Yes, they do apply with regards to the forces. A trauma can be defined in so many different ways, and I'm going to tell you an example of one of my clients. Because what we need to understand is that traumas can resurface. What often happens for people is they pigeonhole them, they put them at the back of their mind, they store them away, they don't deal with them at the time, and they can resurface. So I'll tell you about a trauma of one of my clients who is a mental health first aider. She rang me in distress. She had been assaulted when she was 15. She's now in her 50s. And she saw something on the news and it brought that trauma back to light. And what we need to understand with any trauma, so traumas can be assault, they can be sexual assault, they can be your house burning down, they can be childbirth, an array of things. Witnessing an accident can be a trauma. So many different array of things, but it is something that is so deep-seated. And I actually find this question a little bit too, wow, how can we just get through a trauma? As if it's, oh, it's easy to get through. it's not easy to get through. It can be debilitating at any stage of our life. And now I've just put in the chat the link to my interview with a lady called Lisa Hilton on Mental Health Chats. And I suggest you watch this and the other interviews on my series on trauma and PTSD, because Lisa talks about childhood traumas and the fact that childhood traumas are so deep that we are actually dealing with them throughout our whole lives. And it's not something we can get over. So my suggestion, and for anyone who has to deal with somebody in their workplace where they've had a trauma, is to understand that people don't always get through to the other side. They learn to deal with it. They learn to live life. However, a really deep trauma can affect somebody throughout their whole lives and be triggered throughout their whole lives. And it can be extremely debilitating. So patience, understanding, giving that person psychological safety in the workplace is so key. And it's building up an atmosphere and a relationship of trust, I think, is one of the key things that we need to be really understanding when it's a deep trauma.
The thing is, a lot of people won't know necessarily that it's that's the issue. So the work needs to be done. You're right, you're saying we're never going to get through this in a couple of minutes. You'll see there's a question later that's based around a quote from Ollie Ollerton. So he's the guy from SAS Who Dares Wins on the TV, and he was speaking yesterday afternoon, and his life story and his first memory as a child was at 10, which is quite shocking as well, isn't it? But this was so traumatic. He was attacked by a chimpanzee. I mean, that came out of nowhere, didn't it? And we were like, what? So I did have to ask the question at the end of the talk, why were you at 10 in the vicinity of a chimpanzee? And he was actually at a circus. And this thing had nearly tried to kill him. So that was, he said, he didn't actually deal with that until, I think he said 2019. So he would have been maybe 50 or so before he finally decided to deal with it. So if there is something, I think, probably from your point of view, is obviously speak to someone like yourself, Claire, a mental health first aider, someone that is can support and help you. Yes, talk to your friends and family, but they're going to listen, aren't they? But they're not necessarily going to be able to get you to the other side. So I think
understanding that mental health first aiders can't diagnose. Mental health first aiders are not there to resolve it. They're there to signpost, to support and signpost. So the key part of this question is helping somebody get through to the other side. They will need professional help, and to find the right professional help in the workplace. We're just there to support. Sorry, my dog's talking to us. So my dog agrees. If you're wondering, it's not my stomach, it's my dog speaking to us. So yeah, so I think this is quite deep. Very, very deep to ask on Just Ask the Coach, but just understanding we cannot diagnose in the workplace. We cannot fix anyone. We can support. And that is key, giving them psychological safety in supporting them.
Yeah, to help them to get the help that they need. I'm bringing you on, Alan. I can see that there's something you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, I was listening to Grayson Perry. He was doing Tracks of His Years on Radio 2, and he was a very angry young man, and he was a punk when he was younger. So whether he'd been through traumas or not, he may well have been. But he went to see a psychotherapist, not his wife, because obviously that would be unethical. But when he was asked by the interviewer, what was it like going to see a psychotherapist? And this is the brilliant thing, and this is what I think his mind is wonderful. He said, it's a bit like someone coming around and tidying up your shed. And we said, the interviewer said, what do you mean tidying up your shed? He said, well, what they do, he says, they tidy up your shed. They leave all the tools there, but they just make sure they're in a place that you can access them. And I thought, oh, that is so good. Sometimes our mind is just a minefield of stuff. But if we have somebody to come in and just order it and sequence it and put it in the place that we can find it and access it when we need to, and I thought, yeah, someone just coming in and tidying up your shed, brilliant.
Yeah.
That's a really good analogy, isn't it? Because we can all relate to that. So whether it's that spare room, whether it's your shed, but yeah, all those things you go, I know it's here somewhere. We have to find it. Christina, would you like to add something as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting what Claire said on this topic, and there's a couple of things that sort of stuck out for me. First of all, when we think about trauma, we often think about, an experience that you've had as an individual. However, in the workplace, when we're thinking about, all the EDI topics, there are a lot of cultures out there where it's almost like there's historic trauma that's passed down generation by generation. So it's, my own example, my mother was a refugee of the Vietnam War. She was, shipped out of Phnom Penh in the, sort of mid-70s, lived in camps, that kind of thing. Now, the trauma she had in that experience, traumas, they imprint on us at a young age, but also they create beliefs. So the beliefs that she had, that she lived by subconsciously, as kids, myself and my brother grew up, they became our beliefs. They steered our values until we got out into the big wide world of work. So it's not just necessarily a lived experience of that individual. We need to watch out for generational trauma as well. So that's one thing. And, there's another side to this as well. So I slightly disagree with Claire because I believe that traumas can be dissolved. No, we can't completely remove them, but they can be dissolved. We can, through the right processes, we can create new meanings from them. We can recreate, redefine our beliefs around them as well. And it is work when all leaders in all business, I believe, are coaches.
Yeah.
And it's about embracing that coaching ability. Now, you might need to go and do a bit of development, some training to access some tools. But you can learn enough to make a difference. And obviously there's going to be some cases where they do need to go and, have some absolutely, the right kind of support. But there is a lot that we can do for the people we work with, our friends, our family, to support them when it comes to feeling differently. We're, as human beings, we're constantly giving things meaning. We make stuff up all the time.
Yeah.
So we can make new stuff up too. So that's just my 2 pence on that.
No, I think it's a great point. And yeah, Claire and I have just done a recording, something else where we talked about brain making.
I was just going to say that, actually. Were you in our last conversation,
I know, I thought it was on here for a second. Then I was like, no, that was an hour or so ago.
I mean, I am in the middle of, so like you guys know, I do some work around mental health as well. And I'm in the middle of delivery of a mental health course. We've got a bunch of course coaches. We've got psychologists in the room, teaching them tools and patterns and techniques to help deal with depression, stress, trauma. So yeah, I'm like literally right in the thick of it. In fact, there's some people over there practicing some of the stuff we've just been teaching them now. So it's a really apt question.
And I know exactly where you're coming from, Christina. What my side of it is saying is that if somebody is still deep in the trauma, we need to be careful in the workplace because we're not the professionals. I know that we can help them with the psychological safety there, but we need to be very, very careful that if we don't have any tools, back to Alan's point there, if we don't have any tools, we can't think we're going to fix them by having a positive atmosphere in the office. We've got to support them. That's where the support comes in, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it needs more than a few affirmations, that's for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And actually, I've just remembered another quote that Ollie said yesterday. So he only talked 45 minutes, but there was so many good points in there. But he said, yeah, people that hurt people. And yeah, so it's really important, that generational thing as well, that we sort it. I'm going to leave you on there, Christina, because we're coming to you for the next question. So a total change of tact, which Ask the Coach does sometimes do this. We'll get really deep and then we'll come back. Topic of the moment, we've been doing AI or automation. It does not matter this week. This question is, what's the best way to use AI when it comes to my LinkedIn presence?
Oh, do you know what? I've been talking about this all week as well, actually. I've been at a couple of team meetings, which I know Recruiting Gym is part of, and did some training with a recruitment business as well, where this popped up. So there's about 1,000,001 different ways that you can use AI. What's important is that you use it as a tool to help make what you're already doing better, not as a replacement for you. So if you think about the issues that you have when it comes to having an active presence on LinkedIn, okay, I don't know what my strategy should be. Well, you can use something like Bard or ChatGPT. There's something called WriteSonic as well that I really like. And you can go in there and say, write me a marketing strategy for LinkedIn, for a recruitment agency with this many people, in this sector, operating in these countries. And it will give you a marketing strategy. It will give you a content plan, okay, a content strategy for LinkedIn specifically. That's fantastic. However, you still need to go and fill it out. It will say to you, post 2 industry articles a week, but you still need to decide what those industry articles should be. Well, how are you going to do that? We could use AI to help curate content for you. So that's going to cut down your time in terms of search, that sort of stuff. Cool. However, you still need to read those articles yourself and offer some sort of comment, some sort of opinion, because the LinkedIn algorithm wants you to be sharing knowledge. It wants you to prove you're credible. It wants to make sure that what you're sharing is relevant. So you need to engage with the article that you've been fed through AI to make sure it is relevant. So now you're posting stuff, and all of a sudden you've done this one post on LinkedIn, and it's you followed your plan, you've created your content, you've personalized it. Now this post is going crazy. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. How do I do more of this? Well, you can take that post and you can put it into AI, and you can say, write me 5 versions of this post. Write me a new version of this post and add humor. Write me a new version of this post and make it more corporate. Take this post and turn it into a 500-word blog. So do you see what I said? There's I think the slide that I've got that I've been showing, there's maybe 5 to 10 points on it, but that's just 3 things that you could be doing, could be using AI for to help you on LinkedIn. But like I said, it's not about it doing LinkedIn for you. It's about maximizing what you do, helping take what you're doing now to the next level.
Yeah, and saving you a lot of time while doing it. So maybe that's one of your tips to manage the time as well. Alan, did you want to say something?
No, because I'm very biased on this, because
No,
but I do think that some of this stuff that we're getting AI to do is stopping us from going to the root source of what is topical and relevant and being talked about, and that's our clients and our candidates. And I've even said to the people that I've been training, how do your clients and candidates use LinkedIn? They say, oh, I don't know. I said, but how often are they on it? I don't know. Well, do they just doom scroll on a Saturday morning? I said, because you might be putting out some great content on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because that was my LinkedIn plan to do my marketing. And they don't look at it until Friday afternoon. And by the time they get around to looking at LinkedIn on Friday afternoon, all this other stuff has come in. But if I hark back to when I started in recruitment without internet and all that sort of stuff, I'd say to clients and candidates, what magazines do you read? What do you subscribe to? What groups or networking events do you go to? What newspapers do you read? Are you a Guardian reader, a Sunday Times? Do you look at the creme de la creme? And that's your key information, because can I rely upon AI to go out there and really find me what the CEOs, what the operations directors, what are they talking about? What's being talked about in the corridors of power? Can AI get that for me? Or can I, as a recruiter who's paid to consult and talk and listen to people, surely if I just ask the question, I can get the root cause? Sorry, that was just an old man talking.
No, I love it because I did some training on Tuesday with an IT recruiter in Surrey, and part of the conversation was around video and part of the conversation was around AI. And they were wanting to know about content ideas. And I said, well, what are your clients interested in? And we essentially had the conversation that you know, what you've just said, Alan. And then I said to them, you know, like that client of yours, right? So they've watched a bit of TV, they've settled down for the evening, it's time to go to bed, they've got in their comfy pajamas, they're under the duvet, they've drifted off, they're now in that kind of, you know, delta sleep pattern. But all of a sudden it's 2 a.m. and they've woken up. What is it that woke them up? And they're all going, I don't know. AI can't surface that for you. Do you know how you surface it? By listening. That rapport part of the conversation. I was like role playing it with them. I say, so you pick up the phone and you say, hi, what happens next? They're going, well, I tell them about no. What happens before you actually get into the meat of the phone call? You ask them how they are, right? I've said this for years. Recruitment consultants, they're recruiters, they're consultants, and they're therapists. Because in that rapport building, people tell you what it is that's like top of mind, and whether it's an issue with their kids or something to do with some legislation they're having to do a load of admin stuff on that it's giving them a headache, whatever it is. When you have rapport with your client, they tell you everything. Are you listening? Mm. The best pieces of content come from you actually listening and going, hold on, 3 people have asked me about this. There must be something here. Let's create something around that.
Yeah. Claire, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I've just got one opinion on AI. It's an old lady's opinion, Alan, not an old man. It's an old lady's opinion. And that is, when I'm on LinkedIn and when I read blogs, I know which ones are being generated by AI. And my opinion is, if you are doing what Christina says, which I think is absolutely brilliant, Christina, and I love the fact that you've made it really specific, put very specific instructions for AI, and then make it human. Don't just, because I know the words that crop up on AI all the time. That's an AI word. That's an AI word. That's their favorite word. So then make it Claire, or make it Christina, or make it Alan or Angela, whoever you are, make it your own. So use AI as a get me some ideas, but don't then just use it. And I've had, as you all know, I have guest bloggers, and lately I've had to send it back to my guest bloggers and say, this was generated by AI. Can you please write it as yourself? And all of them have said, yeah, it was.
Oh, okay. It's got to sound like you, hasn't it? Otherwise, what's the point? Because it's about your personal branding being out there as well, and you're just diminishing it if you're ending up letting the computers talk for you.
Look at where AI gets its data from. It gets it from something that's been out there. It's available to everybody. It's on Tinternet land, right? That's where it is. But we know, because of the policies and the equal opportunities and the laws of the land, that what we put out, we have to be very careful about how we word it, who we're addressing it to, our target audience. So it's almost as if the AI, where it's picking up the content from, it's already been edited. If, however, I'm having an off-the-record conversation with a client or a candidate, they're going to tell me stuff. They're going to tell me stuff that they wouldn't put on a post. And that's when I truly get a good understanding. That's the consultative part. And that's the bit that I struggle with, understanding that AI can actually get to that level. Yes, it can be intuitive, but really, can it really understand people like we do? Will it get somebody to open up as we can?
Well, that links us on to the next question perfectly, actually. So question 4, how do I stop them being keyboard warriors and get them to pick up the phone?
Right.
And therefore, hopefully, to get them to do more reading.
Hello. Right. We're not just talking about this type of keyboard. The question is, how do I stop people from becoming keyboard warriors? I think its short answer is you don't. I think it's something that's catching. I think it's contagious. But keyboards, it's not that sort of keyboard now. It's actually the keyboard we have on our mobile devices, on our tablets, not just on the PCs, because, the WhatsApping, the texting. And I think if a manager has people within his or her organization that are keyboard warriors, now let's understand the term. Does that mean that they are spending too much time sending emails and messages and not getting anything from it. Is that what it really means?
Yeah, that's what we're worried about, isn't it?
They
Because
should
we
be on
wouldn't
the phone.
yeah, we wouldn't be worried about it if they were getting loads of replies and it was doing really well.
And that's the thing. We need to then measure it. So, and Angela will love this. I'm not talking about KPIs here, but I think each manager or each individual needs to have a look at, well, okay, you're making all of these keyboard interactions here. Is it slowing down the process or is it speeding it up? Because I think it's less likely that it's speeding up the process. Is it these keyboard interactions? Is it helping you to build relationships with these people? Personally, less likely. Are they using this keyboard interaction as a first step in order to make that call or to get that face-to-face meeting booked? Now, perhaps, but if we did it that way, we might be second or third to the finish line. But I also know that there are cultural differences, international differences. You know, you call a German up during the day or a Chinese person during the day, and they won't like it. But if you send them a message on LinkedIn first to say, look, I want to talk to you about this, can I call you? And you do that introduction via the keyboard first, then it's more acceptable. So is it a preference? Is it a nuance in your marketplace? For example, if you're in education or healthcare, or you work in companies that make parts for satellites in clean rooms, they won't have their mobile device with them all the time. But you send them a message first, they're not able to take your call. But I also think, what are they missing out on when they're not making those calls? And it's all the things that we've just talked about. The rapport building, the relationship, picking up on, you know, the subtleties and the nuances and the rumors. So I think the first thing we need to do when it comes to the keyboard warriors is look at the results they're getting. Are they getting positive results? Are they getting negative results? If they're getting positive results, good. How can we replicate that? How can we make that better? But if they're not getting the positive results, then perhaps we need to consider some training in other areas, like, for example, picking up the phone. Because, you know, I did a post on this a while ago about recruiters stop being a bunch of Alices. In other words, a bunch of Alice in Wonderlands where you hit the send button and then you sit there and you wonder, I wonder if the client's got my email. I wonder if they like the candidate that I'm presenting. I wonder if they've got any questions about the candidate. I wonder if they're going to call me back. Oh, I know. I wonder if I should send them another email. And I'm going, stop wondering and pick up the phone. That's the only way you're actually going to know. And that sort of leads on to, how do I get people to do more BD? Well, first of all, ask yourself the question, why are they not doing the BD? Yeah. Is it that they don't know who to call? So do they have a target list? Do they know, you know, what their target market is? Have they been trained properly? I think us on here, we might have some answers for that. We'll train them. Is it a deep-rooted fear that they have of rejection? You know, we know that fear comes from that one-time learning event, and then we spend the rest of our life becoming really good at it because we just keep replaying it in our heads. Also, do they have strong enough whys? Have they got a real purpose? Have they got a why? And why do I need to pick up the phone? Well, because you want to do more deals. Why do I want to do more deals? Because you want to earn the money. Why do I want to earn more money? Because I want to clear my student debts. I want to get an upgrade on my car. Good, have strong whys. And I think too many people, they equate BD, oh, I've got to do sales calls between 9 and 11, and they're cold calls. No, they're not cold calls. No recruiters should be doing cold calls. They're not cold. They're not uncomfortable. Call them something else. Call them your holiday fund type calls. But also, people think that BD is just a time that we need to do something. No, it's every day. There's opportunities out there to do BD. I'm talking back doors. I'm talking about backfill. I'm talking about references. I'm talking about flipping candidate calls into BD calls. You can tell I get a little bit passionate about this. But bottom line, BD isn't a bolt-on to your activity. It's something you should be doing as an everyday part of your activity. In fact, swap those two words around. Yeah. Developing your business. What can you do today to develop your business today? What can you do to develop your market knowledge, your presence, your network, your brand awareness? And at that point, I will shut up. Let somebody else talk.
But even just swapping those two words around, all of a sudden it becomes a different mindset, doesn't it? And it's about developing your business, which you do think, okay, well, that's all the time, whenever I can, and I'm spotting all the opportunities. Whereas where it's around the other way, it's suddenly into a time frame, which takes us to our last question. But no, brilliant, loads of ideas in there. Thank you for that. And if you're still struggling, then yes, we do have the business development zone here. One of Alan's courses in there as well, how to sell client retainers so that you're getting paid up front would be great as well. We'll get those links in there. Thank you for that. Okay, so Ollie did get his question in here for this scenario. So Christine, I'm coming to you first on this one, Christina. Change is inevitable. Growth is a choice. I loved that phrase, and obviously relevant to what you're doing here at the moment as well. So that was his starting point. How do we embrace getting out of our comfort zones? What would be your suggestions?
Ooh. Do you know, in my experience, people only truly get out of their comfort zone when they're in enough pain to do it.
Mm.
So it is you've got to truly want it. You know, you've got to truly want to step forward and grow to really get the results. So, you know, I think it is about thinking like, what is it that's really causing you an issue? Sometimes we think there's a problem, but the problem is never truly the problem. So if you can get down to source and go like, this is the real thing that's playing out now. This is what I'm going to tackle. That's where growth, for me, that's where growth comes from. So it is, it's about identifying that. Claire and I did a podcast a few months ago, and I sort of told little bits of my story because it was around the mental health stuff. So I don't know, maybe we can share the link to that, Claire, because I think if people listen to that, they'll understand where I'm coming from. And I talk way too much on this anyway, so to take time up with that now.
But it's important, isn't it? It's one thing. The fear came up earlier, and Alan saying whether it's related to BD or that next step. But we could relate this to all the questions that we've come up with today, because that change is inevitable. And I think one of the posts this morning that I ended up writing on was, if you're not growing, if you're not developing, if you're staying where you are, actually you're not standing still, you're going backwards, because everyone else is growing, is going to be going past you.
Do you know, it's I've met Ollie Ollerton a couple of times, and one of the people we were with, they said, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Ooh,
and that really hit home for me. It really hit home. I was like, okay.
Well, I suppose we're all dying, aren't we?
Yeah.
in incremental steps, but whether we're going to be getting there quicker.
I think there's a really strong graphic about this where there is a circle of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
And the comfort zone, it's actually okay to dip into, just don't stay there, because some people like to go there because that's a safe place. That's where they can almost just reassess where their issues are, and it's a safe place to just contemplate and sometimes de-stress. So it's okay to dip into, but just don't stay there. But the next zone outside of that is the fear zone. And that's why people stay in their comfort zone, because they think, oh, the next zone that I've got to push through is fear. Oh my God, and all the other things around fear. After fear, it's the learning zone. Once you push through the fear, you then start to learn. If actually, I know now that I should never have been fearful of it. And then the final zone, right on the outside, is the growth zone. There you go. Yeah. So you have to push through that. But sometimes you might get into that learning zone, you get overwhelmed. So dip back into your comfort zone, reassess, realign, take some time out, and then go back through it again. But I think for me, that's a really powerful visual. But we need to spot the signs as managers when people are in that comfort zone, because the comfort zone is low risk, but it's also low reward.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're not getting anywhere. So you've got loads of options there to choose from with regards, but they're all saying the same thing, isn't it, with the circles, because it is pushing through, getting to that next stage that makes the difference, because otherwise you are, I'm not sure I'm comfortable saying if you're not growing, you're dying.
No, but you have to make the choice. Do you want to grow? So you make the choice as to whether or not you're going to push through that fear. Am I going to be bothered to learn? Do I actually want to grow? And so that's why the control is within you, for sure.
And often we get stuck in the fear zone.
Yes.
Because we are stuck in our amygdala, we can't see the growth happening. You know, it goes back to the Carol Dweck's fixed and growth mindset, and we get stuck in that fixed mindset and we think, yeah, I'm somebody who likes to learn, I like to grow, but there are certain situations that all of us can get stuck. And I can't name the situations because it depends on the person, because they are stuck in the fear, and it's getting over that fear, over that hump, which is it's difficult. It's difficult. We're all human.
Definitely. I'm going to leave everyone on screen for this last one. I'm going to come to you, Claire, first of all, with regards to, what's my one tip to manage my time and reduce my stress levels? So you've got a course on time management, you've got a course on managing your stress for both leaders and consultants. So let's come to you first.
And they do intertwine, because if we're managing our time well, we are lowering our stress. If we're panicking because we've got too much to do, our stress levels rise and our stress levels rise. So this is an absolutely brilliant question. And I remember Alan saying probably about 18 months ago, it's not time management, it's task management. And it's all about, if we can work out our tasks, my tip is, if we can work out what task do I need to do in the day, and for each task, I believe it's also energy management. So if you've got a task that you need to really focus on, your energy needs to flow, make sure you're doing it when you've got the most energy, not when you have your slump in the day. We all have those slumps in the day where we don't have as much energy and we can't focus as well. So you manage your tasks where it doesn't matter. Yeah, Alan's slumping off his chair now. Too many carbs, Alan. So where it doesn't matter, and actually be okay that if you're doing those menial tasks when you don't need the energy for them. But if we need to be creative and innovative, do it when we've got the most energy.
Definitely. Alan, what would be your one tip?
My tip.
One tip, buy a slower watch. I think this is also about choice, and coming back to the stress thing. I was told years ago that stress is how you choose to react to something. So I'm much better when I've got lots of things on the go and I need projects, and I look at it. Now I can look at that list and go, oh my God, look at all these things I've got to do and I'm never going to get through them. Or I look at that list and say, right, number one, let's get going. And actually just start ticking those things off, because actually I'm driven by it. I know there's unhealthy stress, but some people actually thrive on a certain type of stress. They like to be busy because when they haven't got anything to do, there's nothing feeding them.
You need stress for peak performance, but it's how do you handle it? Back to our first question, Christina, how do you handle your mindset with regards to traumas? Get through it. It's all
they call it optimal anxiety. There you go.
Yeah.
Whoa.
You know, I love that you brought it back to that, Claire, because I was thinking, and I love what you shared. So I use time blocking. I have focused time in my diary. But a lot of this comes down, managing stress is about managing your state. So I know that if I'm having that slump, I need to get outside. Yeah. I need to stand outside, close my eyes and feel the sun through my eyelids. And I can do that for 30 seconds and I'm re-energized again. I might put on some music and dance. Like, there's certain things that work really well for me when it comes to managing my state. This morning, I was exhausted, absolutely exhausted. And I had to do a quick video to go into a WhatsApp group. And I was like, oh my God, I really don't want to do this. And what did I do? I immediately 3 deep breaths in state, recorded the video, done. So it is about learning what are these tricks that you can use to manage your state. And if you need to schedule time in so that you can have those little pick-me-ups, then take responsibility and do it.
I think that's a great place to finish it. Let's end it with those tips. But yeah, what is it that makes a difference to that you can do in a minute? That's the difference, isn't it? And you're right, music's a great one for me as well. Thank you so much to all of my coaches. Lovely to have you here and to have a recruiting gym one. We did end up putting a lot of your courses in the chat there so that people can go and find those. We'll download this and put this in the course. This is session 69. Goodness me. Okay, so we'll be back for session 70 in 2 weeks' time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye. Nice to see you, ladies.
Bye, lovely to see you all.
Bye.
Bye.